Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to day 4 of SRP Europe 2021. I'm Emily, and I'm head of content at SRP, and I'm delighted to introduce you to our final session, which will be discussing the digital world, navigating the future of finance. Very interesting topic to close the event on as well, and it's my pleasure to hand over to the moderator for this session, Paul Stanfield, the CEO of the Federation of European Independent Financial Advisors. Over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Emily, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start this session. As Emily says, I'm the CEO of the Federation of European Independent Financial Advisors. I'm also the Secretary General of the European Federation of Financial Advisors and Intermediaries, both of which are pan-European trade associations for advisors and intermediaries, as you might guess. I'm going to start this session by simply asking our panelists to introduce themselves, say a few words about their experience and expertise and their present roles. Filippo, could I introduce you first, or ask you to introduce yourself first?
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Filippo Mattia Ginalni. I've been dealing with structured products across various distribution channels for a good part of the last 19 years in the capacity of selling, structuring, or trading them. And now I'm responsible at Agora Digital Capital Markets to push the platform which deals with issuance and lifecycle management of structured products. That's it.
Thanks, Filippo. Patrick, if you could introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am Patrick Chotard. I am the CEO and founder of Lindsay's Partners, and we are a boutique specialized in structured product, where we mix the human expertise of our advisors and the technology that we developed through our platform called Argo, that enables our clients, which are finance professionals, to follow the lifecycle management and also price structured product. And through that digitalization, we managed to grow from one office to 7, and now we're like 50 strong.
Thank you, Patrick. And last but not least, Mark.
Thank you, Paul, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Aldous. I have worked in the derivatives and structured products industry and alternatives industry for nearly 25 years now, mainly at big global investment banks, where I've been based in various places from London, Zurich, and New York. But I joined Delta Capita 4 years ago to build our structured products business. Delta Capita's structured product business is Delta Capita is a managed service provider and technology provider to the industry, and our structured product offering is targeted at the manufacturers of structured products, and our offering is designed to help them cope with the increasing demands of digitalization and the impact that's having on their business model. So this is a topic very close to my heart and central to our business strategy.
Thanks, Mark. That's great. The questions I'm going to look to ask today, I suppose, are split into two sections. Initially, we'll look at perhaps what we might call market growth and digital impact, and then later on at advisory developments. Filippo, if I could start with you and ask you quite a general question, really, and that is, how do you feel the market's growth and development strategy has been impacted by the digital transformation of last year?
Thank you, Paul. I believe the impact has been incredibly significant. We all know that digitalization gave a big push to structured product and the market, but I would like to focus on some different aspects of it. The first thing I would like to note is the digitalization happened not just to issuer or distributors, but throughout the whole of the value chain. It also including now many people are looking at digitalization, such as listings, issuing and paying agents, listing venues, rating agencies, custodians, CSDs. Many of these have shelved the investment for years, but now this has become to the fore. Also, digitization has impacted the market in the sense that it's a faster market, inevitably, with everyone is gearing towards to issue very quickly, ideally to T+0, just because you want to capture market opportunity very quickly, almost in real time. Just as last March, you want to issue a structured product linked to the Pfizer or to any of the providers of vaccines, it will still take quite a while to make that happen. And also you need to do this in a context of your legal compliance and audit or anything of your function needs to be, issuance cannot be happen quickly, but disregard all of the other aspects. It's very important. So how to do this? You need a system, a platform that deals and disseminates information quickly, avoiding any possibly need for reconciliation between every actor in this value chain. And technology such as distributed ledger, it is ideal in this respect. Another impact in another sort of consequence, what we're seeing in the market is higher volatility. Hence, as other people on the panel are focused on, is lifecycle management has come to the fore. Key events in many structured products are such as autocalls or disruption events or any other things that can happen to security is now crucial and cannot be missed. It couldn't be missed before, but even now, even more so. Things that happened like GameStop or even last March, there was a lot of disruption throughout the market. So you need a tool or a set of tools to make that very easy, such as smart contracts, not to mention the context of getting new ideas, looking at life cycle management. Last but not least, all of the EU regulation in terms of digital finance strategies pointing towards digitalization and use of DLT and smart contracts. So you will see the rise of platform and contexts which are able to manage end-to-end from pre-issuance and idea generation to the end of life cycle redemption, all the structured products. And that's a key development in the market, end-to-end issuance and life cycle management. That's what I think.
Thanks, Felipe. Yes, that's very, very useful. Very good. Patrick, what are your thoughts? Any further thoughts on that particular question? You're on mute at the moment, Patrick.
Yeah. So I couldn't agree more with Filippo. Now we are looking at all the value chain, from the financial advisor to the distributor to the issuer, and this has to be very streamlined. So from the idea that you have to the pricing that you do to the product that you issue, and then you manage it. So I think that the digitalization and as now price discovery is not longer like it's a key element, of course, but it's not a differentiating elements anymore. When we created our platform like 3 years ago, a little bit more, nearly 4, we saw that price discovery was something relatively new for multi-issuer platform. Now, all the actors that have been in that direction, they notice that it's not only the price discovery, it's also the lifecycle management that you have to add to be competitive in this market. Also, like idea generation, how you can help the financial advisor that has the expertise, have the access to the final client, how you can help that financial advisor look for the best suited product for their clients. So as we see, technology enables us to be more efficient, to be more tailor-made. And we are in the structured product world. What is more tailor-made than a structured product? So we need like tailor-made tools to make that happen. So of course, like we've seen like development for risk management, suitability, like all the regulation requirements that are being onboarded on platforms, and that's where toward the way that we are going to go.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, very, very useful. And in fact, you've sort of answered a couple of the questions that the audience have already raised in your response there, which is very good. Mark, just adapting the question a little, How far do you think we should go with the digitalization of the distribution process, and what level of product customization is perhaps desirable?
Yes, Paul. So I think that customization question one is a really interesting one. What I'd like to pick up on first is a couple of things that Filippo and Patrick have mentioned. So digitalization, but what does it mean for the industry? Well, it's likely to mean a larger volume of activity. It probably means that volume is focused on smaller individual transactions, but more of them. And clearly we're seeing the impact from some of the things that Filippo and Patrick mentioned already. But also I think they both mentioned latency in the distribution model of the past, or the value chain of the past. Product ideas were developed, those ideas were curated and then pushed through the distribution chain until they found the right customer. In the digitalized world and in the customized world, that whole process is inverted. So not only have you got higher volume, lower ticket size, more activity going through the system, the latency and the need to respond to those requests rather than to generate the demand changes the whole dynamic. For the issuers who have to respond to that, but also in the way that the distribution chain and distribution process works. And I think the impact of that, as Filippo mentioned, and Patrick as well, actually, it works its way the way through the system. So yes, Patrick had mentioned the pricing piece was naturally the initial barrier to that the kind of change we're seeing. And so the development of pricing tools to respond to and to provide lower latency pricing was something that we saw evolving a few years ago. But once that turns into transaction flow, into execution, you immediately find the next point of weakness. And I think when you talk through that whole value chain, certainly the manufacturing process, all of the aspects of that are impacted. As you including things like the product governance processes, where the regulatory environment requires you to be testing what you're doing, to be assessing whether what's being manufactured is suitable for the market that it's going to. You have to understand all of those things and test all of those things real time. But then it flows through that execution chain, and I think Filippo mentioned parties who are not necessarily the people that we immediately think of when we have these discussions, but regulators, exchanges, the listing processes, the paying agents. Any weakness, any bottleneck in any of those processes is an impact to this digitalization that we're seeing. So you have to work your way through the entire system, and ultimately, I think Patrick was talking about the life cycle. Once you've got to a position where you're building a portfolio of customized, smaller size products, whether you're servicing those clients as an advisor, as a wealth manager, or whether you're servicing your distribution channels as a manufacturer, you cannot afford to manage the life cycle of those products using people. You have to have tools. You have to have efficiency. So I think that's the impact of digitalization that we're then talking about. How we react to that. I think the question around how far digitalization and customization can go is a difficult one to answer, and there are a number of different directions that we see at the moment. That there are different models of customization, if you like, evolving from platforms or processes where you have a shelf of products for people to choose from, and we're seeing, particularly in the US, the development of platforms that operate on that basis. through to secondary market capabilities. And I guess there are some markets like the German market that have evolved historically in that direction to give that choice. But really, I think what people think about when they talk about customization is that customization of the primary market, the ability for individual investors even to customize products in the primary market and have those issued specifically for them. And that's certainly been where we've seen investment. We've seen all parts of the manufacturing, the distribution chain adapting to accommodate that. I think there's a question as to how far that goes and how deep the demand is for those truly individual customized products. But those are the different models that we're looking at in terms of how customization will really serve the clients.
Thank you, Mark. That's very, very useful, very in depth. I'm actually going to come back to you again. Based on what you've just said and the comments from Filippo and Patrick, what role do you think intermediaries and multi-dealer platforms need to play over the medium term?
So I think there's certainly a role for them to play in distribution, and I think there's been resistance from manufacturers historically to that model. They had preferred to develop their own platforms and give them to their clients, and were concerned about the competition that the multi-dealer platforms might provide to their target client base. But I think a lot of those barriers have started to fall away. We're certainly seeing manufacturers either collectively investing in developing some of these platforms or adapting their business models to open up to a wide range of digital transaction flow. So I think we're certainly seeing those platforms become a core part of the distribution chain. In parallel, though, I think we're seeing the larger, certainly wealth managers, the larger private banks, adapting their own tooling to the digital capabilities that the banks have been developing, and those channels are increasingly developing tools where they expect their product manufacturers to provide their pricing and to provide their execution and even life cycle capabilities directly into their own infrastructure. So I think there's a space for all of these things in the industry, and they play different roles potentially for different size or different style participants.
Excellent, thank you. Filippo, do you have any additional thoughts on that particular area?
Yes, I do, and I think I share most of them with Mark. I will go a little bit further. I will define intermediaries probably as, in my case, or what I think, distributors and online brokers. And I will try to tackle your question of splitting intermediaries from multi-dealers. I believe we are in the golden era for intermediaries because of digitization and the rise of platforms like what everyone in this panel has been proposing. Certainly, we are providing a platform primarily to issuers for end-to-end digitalization of life cycle of structured products, a workflow tool, and then smart contract and DLT. So therefore, issuance becomes a lot faster, as I said before. There's less operational risk, and an issuer can be very much closer to the client's needs in terms of both time to market and customization of product. And as Mark said, more and more are embracing embracing this kind of digital transformation, and they must, and they need, and understanding need to be part of the digitalization themselves internally, but also they need to integrate externally to be part of the digital value chain that everyone here is building. I think this is an essential point. What does this mean? That in practical terms, a distributor such as or online broker gets direct access to an issuer's platform, whether it's like multi-dealers or not. So the issuance process is very interactive. It becomes more interactive than it used to be. It's a lot faster and more secure. We are doing this with our own product. So there is the value chain is extending also to someone who's normally not part of it. Moreover, we can conceive a world in which each distributor or online broker has got their own dashboard of products that have been sold through their networks. And through this digital dashboard that can be configurable however they want to, they are able to monitor exactly what they sold and when, and what are the events out of callability, or they're close to barriers, or when it's next coupon, to reap the benefits and get ideas out of it and propose new ideas to distributors. It's a sort of a mixture between a risk management tool and trade idea generating tool. So it gives you an overview. And we're seeing distributors across Europe interested in this kind of solution. For multi-dealers, story is a little bit different, but also I believe very positive for them. Digitalization means essentially more customization available to everyone. So it will require a multi-dealer platform to be even more flexible on one side, and allow more flexibility and customizability of whatever product they offer. And but this and more access through digital platform means they're going to eventually reap more fees because they're going to be more trades with more volume. So it's going to be beneficial to them, and probably less beneficial to issuer at the back. So also on the other side, though, I'm thinking about multi-dealers platforms competing with one another. They will need to go and appeal to issuers, and those are going to be more appealing are those that are going to be more integrated in the value chain in a similar way to distributors. Meaning, are you linked somehow, maybe through the LTO smart contract, to listing venue? Are you linked to a CSD? Are you linked to, I'm calling like in Switzerland, for instance, SDX, which aims to be the digital? Are you linked there? Are you ready for this? And so they need to pay more attention to their offering as well, unlike before. And as Patrick said, the offering was just, I'm pricing. Now they need to move away from that paradigm and evolve themselves.
Thanks, Filippo. Yes, that's very useful again. Just moving on slightly, Patrick, do you feel that the whole delivery chain is ready for the impact of digitalization, from manufacturers through to distribution, clearing, exchanges, and regulators as well? And where are the current points of weakness, do you believe?
So basically, I agree with Filippo's. It's now everybody's looking in the same direction, but we still have some bottlenecks that have to be addressed. And a lot of work have been done by the manufacturer and the issuers regarding their system. But now, as like a multi-dealer platform pricing tool, we are limited by the capabilities of the issuer, because we cannot price for them. We just give access to the tool that they can develop. So we've seen in the latest years and like months, like more and more issuers developing more capabilities for more payoffs or access to smaller size, as we mentioned. So one bottleneck will be on the issuer side, but they're working on that very quickly now, because they see that it's like a real goal for them. And also I see another bottleneck, which is like, I would not call it a bottleneck, but it's like, if you imagine a world where like, okay, so it's like a seamless process from the manufacturers to the end client. There is something we have to address, like what is the role of financial advisors? Because I am a strong believer that these kind of products, and even like entering like financial markets, should always be done with the right knowledge and with the right education and the right assessment. So that's why I think that with the financial advisor we're working with, that those platforms enable them to be faster in the process, to monitor tools, to have risk management, to have like it's like a augmented advisor. The augmented advisor is like you have the human expertise, and through technology, through digitalization, you have like more efficiency, augmented capabilities to advise your clients more wisely on that particular structured product. So that's something because of course, like we can imagine a world where the end client directly can go and buy a structured product from like maybe in 5 years or 10 years. But will it be good? That's like a question, because like I think financial advisor and human expertise still have to have a role in that space of structured product. I'm a great believer of education on that, and I think financial advisor have a huge role to play in that sense. That of course we will help financial advisors to be faster, to have access to more product, but they will be the gatekeeper of the wealth of their client. So we have to be careful about that. That's because of course, like if we're talking about a robo advisor or anything, like it's advising the client. It can be have a role, but for the moment, the human expertise is what's in the market.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I mean, one of the one attendee question is, what are your views on robo-advisors and what role can they play in the structured product market? I think from what you've just said there, you see the main role is augmenting human advice.
Yeah, of course. It's like basically a robo-advisor are basically like digitalized advisors, but end clients, especially regarding their wealth, they tend like to believe or not that much. They don't trust robo-advisor yet, because we've seen like it's a huge trend, but in terms of assets, it's not like really huge at the moment. So rather than saying, okay, we're going to create a platform where like you have the final client answering a few questions and then giving access to a product, you say, okay, let's give like the advisor or the private banker or any distributor the tools to help their clients, but there will still be a filter, a human filter on that.
Okay, well, I mean, as you might imagine, given my roles, I'm very pleased to hear that, and Filippo's comment earlier about I think it was the golden era of intermediaries. So it all sounds positive for the advice and intermediary sector, at least. Mark, your feelings on this aspect, particularly the delivery chain and its readiness for the impact of digitalization, and where points of weakness might exist now and in the shorter term.
No, absolutely, and I think if you don't mind, there's just one point that Filippo mentioned I'd like to go back to, because I agree with almost everything he said, but there's one aspect where I see a slightly different outcome in terms of the role of multi-dealer platforms, which is I think he's absolutely correct that multi-dealer platforms clearly need to attract and retain issuers on their platform as well as distribution. But I think the offering services to manufacturers, and I think he mentioned things like listing, etc., via the multi-dealer platforms, I see some barriers to that, in that most of the issuers that we work with will work with multi-dealer platforms now, but that will not be their single point of entry to the market. They'll continue to have their own platform. They'll continue to work directly with their wealth channels internally, or third-party wealth channels directly. And they need these capabilities for their entire portfolio. So I think, I mean, largely linked to my own business model at Delta Capita, but I think the services that a manufacturer needs will be services that they're going to want to acquire and retain across all of the different channels that they might operate in. And that makes it difficult, I think, for multi-dealer platforms to offer those services, or difficult for issuers to value those services when they need them across the board. In terms of the broader question of the readiness of the entire chain, the value chain for digitalization, but people are definitely recognizing the challenge around automation, around the latency across the spectrum, and so we in the role we play, we see that digitalization occurring in the sell side and the buy side, and then in these additional platforms, the exchanges, the other venues that we've talked about. But the thing that I observe in that process is that the solutions that are being developed are generally developed in isolation. So that they're developed with the big picture that we're talking about in mind, that automation's required, digitalization of the process is coming, but everyone develops their own response to that. So if you're an issuer of a structured product, for instance, or a distributor, and you have to connect to multiple parties in your value chain, if you're connecting to 5, 6, maybe even more parties to complete the process of bringing a product to market, getting it to an end client, getting it to an exchange or to a regulator, and every one of those parties defines the product in their own way, has their own schema, has their own messaging protocol, it treats the life cycle events differently, then we risk an incredible amount of inefficiency across the industry as everyone tries to translate across all of these different venues. So and it's I guess it's also clear that trying to develop a common data model that everyone adopts is fraught with difficulty and a story, a long history of or just ending up with another additional data model is typically how that ends up. But I do see solutions emerging in this area. I mean, I guess there's been discussion about DLT. There's smart contracts. There's I'm also involved in ways to manage that translation problem more efficiently, so that even if you accept that different people will describe and manage things in different ways, the ability to communicate between them is simpler. So I think there are solutions being developed, but at the moment, if I look across the chain, I see a lot of independent development of independent solutions that then require translation.
If I may add something to that, I think that issuers will actually stay unbiased through the platform, because every platform, as you mentioned, is being developed on their own. Like so, multiple platform. Even among our panelists today, it's like we have like the same goal and 3 different ways to get there. So I think issuers will stay unbiased on that side, and I think that as we all know that all the functionalities, we have like a roadmap for like the next 2-3 years in terms of IT developments on our side, and on I think on Filippo's side and Mark's side also. So the goal is the same, and the adoption will be the key. Like how many people, how many independent financial advisor, how many private banks are using your tool. So it will be more like a market share game than a winner takes all, because if we don't have like a common technology, of course it will have multiple, and then it will be in terms of market share. So how many financial advisors in the UK are using the platform A, or how many private banks in Switzerland are using the platform B? And I don't see like a merge of interests right now, because we are in the golden age. So everybody thinks they are gonna be on the top. So nobody wants to actually to merge, to go faster or to go further. But at one point, I think these need to have access to professional clients, so private banks, independent financial advisor, etc. You will see a platform emerge because they have the market share of that.
I further point on this. I think technology will allow interoperability between all the platforms, and it's going to be one. There is like 2, 3, or 4. Hopefully, the one on this panel, we can sit down and set a common standard. And interoperability not only amongst us, but also we need to adapt our own platform to whatever it's already available and developed by issuers or distributors. So we can't go and pretend to wipe out. We would love to, but not always is possible.
Yeah, thanks very much, all of you. That's very useful views there. We've talked about the advisory side to a degree already, but I want to go slightly more specifically into advisory developments or possible developments. Philippa, I'm going to start with you, if I may. My original question was going to be, how can advisors differentiate themselves from competitors in the virtual context, if you like? But I'm just going to add a couple of attendee questions to that, if I may, which are very much linked to this one area. One person has said, can technology and platforms help promote the value of structured products and facilitate the engagement of advisors in this market? And one other question, which I'll try and find. What are your views on? Well, actually, we sort of touched on this before, but the views on robo-advisors and what role they can play. So, if you can build all of that together into your views about advisors differentiating themselves, possibly from each other, but also from fully automated services.
Yes, I believe technology is gonna come to not to the rescue, but to the enhancement of what advisor does, as Patrick said. I believe, maybe because I'm coming from a sales and structuring background from investment banking, idea generation will be key. But the idea generation we can afford now is ideal generation tailored to the specific need of a specific individual. Just because you can go you have to be very granular in this. We have the technology and to have to make very small issuance on very, very different underlyings at the same time now. So you can actually customize the product exactly to the needs, not only what we have in the portfolio, but it actually almost to the feeling of an individual, to what he thinks about the market. It has to go down to that level to differentiate. And how do you do that, in my mind? You have to have at the very least a portfolio live in real time, which is now really available pretty much to all advisors. But this portfolio, and now it comes the engagement bit in my mind, needs to be linked to not only to the trading and risk system, the middle and back office, which just spits out data in there, but also to structuring or product development up the food chain. So you need that small piece of information to go and reach back to whoever gives you ideas. You need a platform of the last mile, but it's also linked to the manufacturing somehow. And there you will be able to find a pricer, maybe, because now, as Patrick said, it's a commodity, and ideally ideas from a desk or the product manufacturing team and AI. So it's not the platform you're going to have in mind what's given to financial advisor. It's alive and needs to be interactive and there needs to be engagement. So I tend to agree with what Patrick said. Robo maybe just augmenting and making things more interesting. They maybe eventually get a very small bit of the portfolio individual. They never take over. The human aspect is overriding, especially as you grow into as you're advising people with more and more wealth. And you need to be, and you're going to have to be much more engaged and have a lot more ideas. Clearly needs to be, and to be, the platform also needs to be fast and customizable to capture quick market moves and to be very proactive in terms of ideas, and also to understand what they profits. And the dissemination of ideas through platforms is absolutely key. I think I covered pretty much everything. that you said. You need more engagement, and robo will be important, but not certainly as fast as much as people may think it would be.
You did indeed, Filippo. Thank you very much. Mark, just following this on to a degree, so what role should advisors play then in an environment where investors have potentially so much access to, or direct access to, information and financial tools?
So I mean, I've spent my career really in the on the sell side in the investment banks, producing the products and handing them over to the advisors to deal with their clients. But if I look across now at the role of advisor and how they interact with their clients, it must have become really challenging, because as you mentioned, their clients, the people they're advising, have access to very similar market data to them. They have access to market analysis, information that historically might have come to the advisor from a research team that they are then in possession of and can share. They're now that information is now generally available. There are lots of tools, and active investors who are interested in their portfolio will have that, and so they're contacting, I'm sure, their advisors already armed with a whole load of information that it's very difficult for advisors to respond to. And I think even some of the portfolio management capabilities, some of the analytics capabilities that advisors have at their disposal, increasingly you see new entrants to the market giving away those tools, giving them to clients to have, which again must make that advisory role more challenging. So from looking into that environment, I can see some real challenges. I think the solution and the direction to that is probably echoing what Filippo just talked about. Really, the thing that advisors can still bring to their clients is how to best execute the positions, the views that they have. They have more information. They have access to that information, but finding the right products and the right way to execute your view based on the information you have is the thing that the advisors can still provide. And to do that, they need to tap into the different types of products, and customizable products are obviously another tool in that armory, where when they understand what the client wants, when they understand what they're trying to achieve, being able to customize something for that investor that achieves those goals is obviously something that they can really add value to. So it looks to me, I mean, there'll always be a role, I'm sure, for the discretionary management and more active advisory, but for that broader advisory role, I think enabling the clients that they talk to be able to execute the strategies that they've developed more themselves now is probably through product choice and through product access is probably the direction they need to go in. When it comes to the robo advisory and I guess that aspect of the question, again, it's definitely not my area of expertise, but I think what I see at the moment certainly is that a lot of focus in these kind of dialogues and in the discussions I hear around structured product tooling and customized tooling for distribution is targeted at the same narrow group of investors, the high net worth investors with private banking, wealth management accounts, and I think what tools potentially like robo advisory, but certainly digitalization more generally has the potential to do is open up structured products to a broader audience. Now, there were clearly lots of steps that the industry needs to go through cautiously before broadening the access to products that can introduce risk and complexity. But these products definitely play an important potential role in a broader retail investment landscape, and the kind of tooling that would be needed to allow that investor group to safely access the markets will be things along the lines of that robo-advisory.
Thanks again, Mark. Yes, very good. I'm personally increasingly involved in the sort of areas of financial education, and the anecdotal evidence from advisors is that, generally speaking, they prefer clients who are better informed. They tend to be easier clients. They tend to be clients who can understand the principles more quickly, and actually, therefore, it's more cost effective for both sides of the equation. So hopefully that proves to be the case. Patrick, with regards to these advisory developments, how advisors can differentiate themselves, do you have any additional views on this?
I think that there's a silver lining. The silver lining is like, as we broaden the spectrum to the access, as Mark said, to structured product, we have to be very cautious. Because for now, as Mark said, it's mostly like ultra high net worth individual having access to that. And also you have some public offering that are being made to retail investors. It's a different process with regulatory issues and steps. But as you will confirm that, Paul, but like, if you look at the standard investor, the retail investor, they need the education. They need someone, even if you're doing like a robo advisor saying, okay, do you want to take risk? Yes, no. Are you willing to take risk? Yes, no. Or like, are you bullish or bearish on the market? Like, even if we could do it, and technologically speaking, we can do it now. So we can do it now, and like, they answer a few questions, but for them to fully understand whether we have to go back to education. So like, it's like a lot, the question which is like a lot more global than structured product is about financial literacy in every country. So I think that, of course, it will be faster. Maybe like Paul, you will be advising a client using one of the platform, but just you will, the financial advisor for me will translate the view of the final client into a product in a few clicks, but you still need a translator. So and the input that financial advisor will give will also be like a market view, like a little feeling about the market. Because like, for example, if as a financial advisor your client is saying, okay, I think the market will go up, and you think like deeply down your soul that the market will go down, you have to say something. Like it's just pure work ethics. So you will still give your input on that, like as an advisory, because that's even I prefer to be said when I'm wrong by someone who knows something. So basically, you will have this role of like gatekeeper, as I said, but also you will be able in a few clicks. Because for me, my opinion, I always say that to clients and employees and everyone, the right structured product is three things. It has to reflect the risk profile of the client. It has to reflect the view of the advisors or the private banker or whatever, and also the technicity of the product and the market parameters. And all these parameters are done through our platform, which is basically the pricing. But then the risk profile of the client, the knowledge of the client, and the market view will still be between the hands of financial advisors.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm going to go to a question that one of the attendees has asked, partly because it sort of touches on an area that we've not yet really discussed in terms of the area of disputes or future issues. And just reading the question as it stands, how does customization down to individually adapted products tie into the area of dispute resolution where such may appear? Filippo, perhaps your thoughts firstly on that.
We all hope not to be involved in such things, but they will inevitably happen as we deal with retailers and financial advisors and complex products. However, many things we've said today will help to have a very much smoother process than in the past. I believe that the first, and I'm looking at my notes, the digital platform will be gatekeepers, and they will absorb many roles. One is they, as Patrick said, provide some sort of education or integrate into education platforms. Number two, they will, and the sort of name of the game here is prevention. Prevent as much as you can. How do you prevent? You try to integrate more and more into a platform that deals and issues and spits out such a product like what we do. What do we need to integrate? KYC from the end client into our platform to prevent anything which is not suitable going into the wrong hands. So integration is key. And the distributor or the financial advisor can also maybe override and be even stricter with that. And again, the interaction, as I said, when it's individually custom, needs to take care of product governance, and that needs to be very carefully monitored. And this also leads to the problem of conflict of interest, because the moment you have individually customized product, conflict of interest may arise. You really want to have a platform that records everything. It's a central point of reference, a golden source of truth, if you want to, and as a very defined and immutable audit trail. That's why we're advocating DLT, such as anyone in dispute resolution can come in, and there are no doubts who did what, who suggested what, and what checks have been made pre, during, and post-trade. So you need to prevent as much as you can. You can't really shield all, but it's much better than rummaging through emails and looking and phone calls and tapes like everyone on this panel did at some point in their own life.
Thanks, Filippo. That's great. Mark, would you like to add any further comments to that?
Yes, I think the customization, clients customizing products that fit the profile of what they're looking for, with advisors supporting that process. Ultimately, that I think is what regulators would want to avoid dispute resolution. But I agree, you need to record all of those processes. You need to be very clear on how that process is working. But I think the challenge I see is probably takes us back to the genesis of MiFID II product governance. So MiFID II product governance defines some clear roles and responsibilities in the process, and it separates manufacturing from distribution, and that guidance actually really originated 3 or 4 years before MiFID from FCA product governance guidance. So this is the guidance and the roles that different parties play in distribution was really defined 7 or 8 years ago. And actually, what we're talking about here is a role where it's difficult to determine who is manufacturing a product if an end user client is determining what goes in it. So I think the process is definitely the right one. I think the tools can be developed to provide all of the protections to all of the parties. So I don't think there are fundamental issues with managing that risk. But I do think some of the definitions and framework that the industry works under were really developed with a different distribution model in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Very relevant and valid points. One question that we have from the attendees, which is quite an open question, is is mobile the future of wealth management? So I'd sort of like maybe looking at the time, maybe a maximum couple of minutes from each of you on to try and come up with a very focused answer on that. Filippo, would you perhaps like to kick us off?
If by mobile we intend doing everything on your mobile, yeah, or more and more services are going to be migrating there. Whatever can be migrated there will be there. But as people said here, the human element will be out of it. So all to begin with, probably all the everything which is not human intensive or where the other human touch is going to get there, and then we'll see about the rest. That's the long and short of it.
Okay, Patrick.
Yes, I agree with that, and also I will add that it's not even the future of wealth management. Like, it's basically the present, because now, like, we are doing, like, our e-banking is on our phones. Everything that we can do remotely, we tend to do it. Even like I just signed documents now, I sign them on my phone. Like all these elements, like even like for bank documents, you can sign them directly through your phone. You can give orders like on your bank account. You can do wire transfers. So everything you can interact on the WhatsApp with your financial advisor, for example. So everything that you can do, mobile is not even the future; it's the present. I was thinking this question is like, even our platforms, like all the people working with the platform, they have them on their iPads or like everything, so they can access our platform directly from the computer, from their laptop, from their iPad, from whatever source of technology that they've got. But the bigger question is like how we interact with each other. So because you have on your fingertip the ability to do something, so how we prevent people from making the wrong decision if they're on their own, on their bed, like buying a structured product. So how we can educate and everything. So that's a real question.
Thank you. That's great. Mark, the final 2 minutes to you, I think, on this one.
Yeah, so I think the future of the industry is really around the topics we've talked about today, and that there's complex infrastructure, there's complex problems to solve, and there's a lot of connectivity around that. And what mobiles provide is a way to interact with that infrastructure that is being developed. So I don't think I see mobiles as the future, but I see mobiles playing an increasing role in the future in interacting with the infrastructure, the architecture, and that we've talked about today.
They're just going to be part of the whole then going forwards.
Absolutely, a way to view and to interact what's been developed to support the industry.
Okay, excellent. Well, look, we're coming very close to the end of our time, so I'd want to firstly thank all three of you for your views and your insights, which I found very interesting and relevant and useful, I must admit. And I suppose that the one point I'm going to take away from this is that you all see a role for advisors and intermediaries going forwards, albeit in a slightly altered world, which is always good news to someone who sits on the board of trade bodies for intermediaries, obviously. But that is really good to hear. And the way that we'll engage with technology going forwards and utilize it for what we might call hybrid situations, I think is very, very relevant. So thank you again for your time. And I'd like to, if Amelie is available, I'd like to pass back to her.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much to Paul, Mark, Filippo, and Patrick for this superb panel. It's an excellent way to finish the SRP Europe 2021 event. Just a reminder for everybody listening, either now or later, you're able to see all the panels on demand on the event platform, but we'll also be releasing them shortly on the SRP website, so keep an eye out. I would also encourage you to watch last night's award ceremony video. When that's out, I think it's worth a watch. I think all that's left for me to do now is to thank everybody who's tuned in this week, who's commented, who's asked questions, and who's interacted with our speakers and other attendees. And also a huge thank you to all our sponsors who made this event possible once again this year. And from me and the entire SRP team, it's goodbye. See you next year.